Good morning. It's nice to be here, and I have a confession to make. I could hardly wait to hear what I am going to say. Asia, see how colorful it is. 4.361 billion human beings. Catholics, 2.6%. Take away the 85 million Filipino Catholics and it will be less than 1%. So, being trained by the Jesuits, a disclaimer. I could not claim to talk for the whole of Asia. I could not even claim to talk for the whole Philippines. In fact, I could not even claim to talk for myself. Because Walt Whitman said, I am large, I contain multitudes. So I was born in the rainforest in Mindanao in the south. We were living with the Muslims and we treated each other as brothers and sisters until the fundamentalist came. I studied engineering and left for during my 5th year, I studied electronics engineering. So that's the way my brain is connected. Then I primed myself, psychologized myself to go to Ghana in Africa. Then they told me to teach theology. It was the dark night of my soul. So I went to Rome, almost lost my faith. It's really. And then I had a crisis of faith. I visited the concentration camps, and I could not reconcile a God of love with what I was taught in the Gregorian. So I went to the ashram of Bede Griffith before. Yeah. Contemplated my navel for hours on end, one meal a day, and liturgy, 3-hour liturgy, because he wanted to inculturate Catholicism into, Catholic liturgy into Hindu. So when I came back, because in India I did not find the enlightenment that I sought. So I went to the sisters of Mother Teresa, and then I said, where is the poorest place? Tomorrow we will tell you. There was a big storm the next day, and one of the sisters fell into a canal, the novice mistress. And then I did not even know that there was a garbage dump that was 40 acres large, with 25,000 people scavenging in the trash heaps to survive on what others throw away. But when I went up to the mountain, millions of flies assailing my nostrils, and the stink that is really out of this world. I went up to the mountain, and an unbearable peace enveloped my soul, and I said, this is a garbage dump, this is where I ought to be. All my theologizing did not give me a sense of my own place in the universe. The garbage dump gave it to me. And I stayed there for 30 years. And so those are all the influences in my life. Especially my novitiate, which was a very happy one. So I would like to thank all my confreres. They're worried that I will make a fool of myself. So the rector and Brother Mike and the seminarians are here to give moral support, as I talk about Asia. Cry of the earth, cry of the poor. Where should I point it? Maybe to the Trinity or something like that. Okay. That direction?
Well, whichever way.
Okay. I'm supposed to be an electronic engineer because that was 50 years ago, we were still studying vacuum tubes, So this is Asia, very colorful. Okay. So the Federation of Asian Bishops' Conferences in 1974 said that it is imperative for the church in Asia to engage in the trifold dialogue of life with the Asian peoples, especially with the poor, with their diverse cultures and their ancient religious traditions. Okay. Smoky Mountain is not the only dump site in Asia. I think that's in Mumbai, even a bigger one. And then, of course, our culture, especially with the food. So the religious in the Philippines, we just follow the bishops. Ora et labora. Especially the middle one, we like it. Eat. That's why we have the food there. Ora, eat, labora. That's. And then we go in dialogue with the various religious. So with all due respect to the bishops of Asia, I would like to add a fourth one. 60% of Asians below 18 years old. So they're very young. Okay? And the religious should understand the way they think. It's all computers now. I'll discuss that later. But if we do not talk to them, we will all become extinct like those dinosaurs. No one will enter our convents. Because many of us, we still have those posters, very nice posters in the parish bulletin. The young people do not even know that it's there. We are not communicating with them already. So it is a very young region. So these are the global contexts that I would like us to reflect on, that will influence religious life in Asia and even in the whole world. First, it is already a global political economy. What that means is that the economics professors in University of Chicago think of economics as a thing on its own. It is not. It is a global political economy. It's not the free market. It's not the invisible hand of Adam Smith. It is a global political economy, and that is why China is making airstrips already in some islands 1,500 kilometers away from their borders. It's only 300 kilometers away from our islands. Because China is afraid that their economy will suffer when that is blocked, because 60% of all shipping lines pass by that small area. Okay? So global political economy means that politics will interfere with economics when it serves their purposes. And that is why when China last month lost $325 trillion in 2 weeks, the government had to put in many billions of dollars to stabilize the market. Because if China sneezes, everyone else gets pneumonia. Okay. The second context of religious life now is the digital revolution. These kids, 3 years old, you leave your cell phone. When you come back, it's already their face that's in the... Nobody teaches them. When I buy a cell phone, I have to read the manuals. They just punch a few things. So once I was giving a talk in San Diego, and there was some glitches with the technology. Somebody said, "Quick, call a teenager." And he really fixed it at once, So it is a digital revolution, and it is connected to the technological revolution, because with the digital revolution, they have mapped out the genomes in the DNA of human beings. And they are already thinking of finding out which is the strand that programs intelligence. So they would like to create geniuses by tinkering with the genomes in our DNA. And they are also thinking of, they are already doing it, attaching machines as our limbs. And they are already thinking of putting chips in our brain, and we could download all our hopes and our anxieties and our griefs into your own Mac Air. That will influence religious life. And then there's climate change. If the projection that there will be a 12-foot rise in ocean levels, 40% of the Philippines will disappear, plus coastal cities in China, Japan, all those. And it's not only that. That's already terrible enough. The Himalayas will also melt. And if the glaciers in the Himalayas will melt, then southern China and Pakistan, Bangladesh will not have enough food. And they will be quarreling over water. The next wars will be fought over water. Okay. So where do we stand? What can religious do? Are we religious because we are together and we do something? Or we do something, that's why we are together? I think that was like listening to the sound of one hand clapping, isn't it? And then, this is where I feel like I'm a voice crying in the wilderness. The understanding of the world has already changed because of Werner von Heisenberg, Unsicherheitsprinzip. Just the sound, just saying it in German is already terrifying. It is one word. Billions of light years away, it's still made up of hydrogen and helium and carbon, the whole universe. Okay. Second, it is connected. There is such a thing as quantum entanglement, which I would not explain to you because I do not understand it myself completely. But if there's a spin in the electrons, and even if it's billions of light years away, the same spin will happen. So it is one, it is connected, and it is dynamic. According to Teilhard de Chardin, becomes more complex, and as it becomes more complex, becomes more conscious. There is a power in the universe that even the scientists could not measure, that deconverts. First, there was a Big Bang, 13.7 billion years ago, and then stars were formed. Then the stars exploded, forming heavier elements until it formed heavier elements that can become us. So we are children of the stars. So you say goodbye to your Cartesian way of thinking. You say goodbye to your Newtonian way of thinking. It is now quantum. It's now a quantum world. Okay? And this is where we try to understand what does it mean. In a world of unpredictability, what does it mean to have vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience? And then in consonance with that, there is a new understanding of the human being. So you say goodbye to individua substantia rationalis naturae. That's Porphyry already in the 8th century. Say goodbye to ghost in the machine. Okay? Say goodbye to rational animal. That's no longer the definition of the human being in the light of the Big Bang and the quantum universe. First, human being is self-transcending. Okay. Karl Rahner already said, the human being is a being that is always already beyond. We're already dreaming. I hope this speech will stop at once so that I can do something like that. You know, we have plans for tomorrow already. We have plans to go to Cambodia, and we are already preparing. Our brains are programmed to look forward according to neuroscience. Imagine, we are future-oriented. We always dream. So before it was Homo faber, Homo symbolicus. Now it's the dreaming animal. An animal, according to Nietzsche, never finished. So a human being is a being that is always already beyond and becomes herself only if she becomes more than herself. That's a new understanding of the human being. No longer the rational, because they're expecting that in 2040 there will be thinking artificial intelligence. Second, the human being is a social being. We are also, our brains are also evolved. You know, we have mirror neurons. If somebody winces, we are also tempted to wince ourselves. So it's only the psychopaths who could not feel what others are feeling. The brain scientists say that we always have a theory of mind, every one of us. Then we read the body language and the face and the glint in the eyes, and we imagine what the connection in his or her brain are doing. We are programmed to be social animals. So there's a lot of people who have no empathy and no feelings. Their brains, there's something wrong with their brains because they made also wrong decisions in the past. And the third is a human being is productive being. These Italians have a word, fiero. You know, it's the fiero in us that makes us go out of the caves into the savannah. Walks upright, and then conquer things. That's why we could not even solve our problems in this planet. They're already thinking of going to Mars and colonize other stars later on. It's in our nature. And that's why we are also joyful beings, but also sad beings, because as the poet said, we look before and after and pine for what is not. Our sincerest laughter with some pain is fraught. Our sweetest songs are those that tell of saddest thoughts. The Irish will understand that very deeply. So, we are in the convergent universe, and we do not know what our place is in the scheme of things. So we should look for the right values so that our being self-transcending, our being social, our being productive will flourish. Because that's John 10:10. I have come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. That's why we are here. That's why we are religious. The first value that we would like to propose is integrity. Comes from wholeness, you know. You become religious because you want to become whole. It is in the religious life that you will become more than yourself, that you will discover God. It is in the religious life that love becomes discovery without end. And when the searching stops, the love dies. Integrity is the move towards wholeness. Second is solidarity, because it fulfills our social nature. And the third is creativity. You know, to make something out of very meager resources. especially our poverty. But sometimes we have a lot of resources that in Asia, our witness of poverty is not very intense. Because most of the religious come from the middle class. And then they live in convents with very high walls and large atria. Is that the plural, Steve? You know? And you have to pass through a security guard before you can. Okay. Yeah. So let's see what we can do, because it's cry of the earth, cry of the poor. This is where I was for 30 years. As I said, it was a dark night of my soul, and then I experienced an unbearable lightness of being the first time I went to the Smoky Mountain. That's why it's called Smoky Mountain. There were sarcastic American journalists called it Smoky Mountain because of the smoke, but nothing to do with Tennessee. You know, that's a very nice place there. You know, it was very sarcastic. My chapel was on the other side of the hill. There were already 25,000 in the garbage dump. Some were still living under the bridges in the rivers that were on the side of the garbage dump. And the children, 3 infants died every week the first time I was there. But they're very happy. The Philippines, once they know that a camera is focused, they smile. Their brains are also connected in such a way, they smile, you know. So, some do-gooders, they would like them to look forlorn and miserable, you know. They are unsuccessful. Then the young guys, these are our targets. There are 6.4 million young Filipinos, 15 to 29 years old, who have not finished high school, like this guy. And the formal education system is not doing much for them. That's 6.4 million. And these are the young ladies, you know. They get married at 15 years old and become grandmothers before they are 30 if no intervention is being done. So USAID gave artificial contraceptive pills. They do not use it. They don't have the discipline enough, you know. I see in their houses those beds, they call it the 30 tablets, I think, just gathering dust. And they still have a lot of kids because I told them, you could hardly feed these 3 and you're pregnant again. And she said, oh, Father, some of them will die. So just to be very sure that their logic is very different from ours. And that's why all those bureaucrats from the World Bank and they cannot understand them. Said it's logical. Yeah. And then, you also have to have a lot of kids so that they could help gather the plastic. So if you're a big family, you have several sacks of plastics every day. Another different way of... So I wrote about this in Faith and Struggle on Smoky Mountain, Hope for a Planet in Peril. It was already global because for 50 years, Smoky Mountain was spewing chlorofluorocarbons into the atmosphere. And if even the fluttering of the butterfly wing will cause tornadoes in Kansas City, how much more billions of tons of carbon spewed into the atmosphere? So it is really, we have to solve the problems of the poor because they are a hope for a planet in peril. So what I did, for several years, I did not do anything when I was in Smoky Mountain because I was afraid I will infect them with my Platonic, dichotomistic way of thinking. So I just said mass there, maybe fed the children. But later on they said, I had Bible sharing and we copied World Vision's Isaiah 65, and it said there, the children will not die before their time. So the women were saying, well, it's against the will of God then, because our children die. So we organized basic ecclesial communities, and we had rallies and demonstration. I do not know whether it's called a rally or demonstration, because they brought out all their religious images of Our Lady of Fatima and Our Lady of something. I did not even know whether that was approved by the church, something like that, you know. They were praying the rosary there, and the government gave in. That's their houses now. 25,000 people are living in houses. 20 square meters, and you could put up a loft, pay the government $5 a month, or less even, with kitchens and a bathroom. It took the scavengers a long time to come to terms. So they wake up in the morning and then they will knock on the cement, and they could not believe their eyes, but it was their power. Give them a vision, give them a dream, and they will do it themselves. So when there is a rally, because we had our parish pastoral council members were elected democratically. But Canolo says the priest, the parish priest, ours was, so I have to take them whatever. Yeah. So when they meet, he said, the government has not heard our pleas. We will march tomorrow. They tell 10 people, and the next day, 10 to 15,000 people will be marching on the streets, praying the rosary. Unassailable. Just like when we ousted the dictator, the nuns were the ones in front. They were kneeling, praying the rosary. And when the soldiers said this, they looked at the slits of their tongues and they saw the nuns praying the rosary. Maybe one of them was even the catechetics teacher so they turned back. Otherwise, there would have been thousands who died if the soldiers fired. So that's the Philippines. We had the Rosary Revolution. And then we also organized the Smoky Mountain Resource Recovery, because there's a law. It should be, the garbage should be separated into biodegradable and non-biodegradable. We were the only ones to do it. And these are the clean ones already. And we gave them pails, 5,000 families, 5,000 pails. They put in their biodegradable food waste, and then we had this machine from the Department of Science and Technology. We were producing 2 tons of biofertilizer every day. So that turns, and then they put some microbes in, then put some air, aerate it, because it becomes methane if the microbes do not have oxygen. We're trying to repeat that again in another part. And these are the kids. So now we are overpopulated because the kids no longer die. And the mothers still produce because they are not very sure whether many will survive. Okay? In fact, I had to tell the mothers, I think they are bordering on obesity already, some of them. Yeah, okay. That's Lori. Mother did not even finish college. He has been working in our daycare center for 23 years with very little salary, but she is very happy. And our kids have 1 hour of computer studies every week. We concentrate on socialization and games, but they already learn their ABCs and their numbers and their colors through computers. And the young people, of course, young people, you have to drive them out of the computer room, They would like to stay there the whole day, but there are others who will use it. So I got them out of the streets, many of them. And the drug lords, they had no clients anymore. They threw a grenade in my convent, which luckily did not explode. And of course, my confreres explained, mala yerba, something like that, Yeah. It's good to have confreres like those, explaining everything. And these are the young mothers. They were scavengers before. Now they're very good in Excel. And they could even edit some videos. So we're hoping for data encoding jobs to be brought to Smoky Mountain so that it will become Silicon Mountain now. There's a valley, and we have a... But if you... that is our poverty reduction strategy. Take care of the kids, feed them, then educate the out-of-school youth, and then give skills to the young mothers so that they will have jobs. That's the only way. This is our new computer room. We have 2 of these. And we have... but it's already outdated, even if it's new. Because now we have Androids. And we have an adaptive learning management system, like Siri of the iPhone. You type, the kids type, what are quadratic equations, and then the artificial intelligence, the bot will tell them what it is, and then provide a link so that they could have further studies about quadratic equations. Adaptive learning management system. I think Bill Gates had a contest last year, and it's only in 2018 that they will have theirs. We already have ours in Smoky Mountain. It is personalized because the artificial intelligence will remember your scores. And it will tell you, Pedro, you review module 37 to 42 because you are a bit weak in basic math. Something like that. We have a digital portfolio for the kids. But since I was trained as a systematic theologian, we have to be consistent. It is a dynamic universe. It is a convergent universe. It should be a convergence theory of learning. Because I think in the United States, it's still behaviorist, constructivist. There's something new now, connectivist, very difficult to understand. But this one, many teachers are already doing it in class. Convergence, the arrows are very important. It's like the universe that never stops. Critical thinking will converge with systems thinking, converge with design thinking, so that the 3, self-transcendence, social nature, and creativity, will flourish in the human being. And then you have multimodal mentoring. Not blackboards, the teachers, even in the United States, spend a lot of time telling kids information that they could Google in 12 seconds flat. You have to reinvent yourselves, those who are teaching. Technology will change everything. Then motivation is very important. That's why we have games. That's why tomorrow I'm flying to Silicon Valley, because Glass Lab is trying to partner with us. That's funded by the MacArthur Foundation and Bill Gates Foundation. They are producing games that will teach kids science, technology, English, even critical thinking, systems thinking, and they could assess the learning. So I had to spend a lot of my time before we arrived at this and the learning management system. I have to look at kids playing World of Warcraft, 25 million players. Now it's Call of Duty, I think, and then Battlefield is coming. And what really dismays me is that there are games that have no values at all. In fact, the values are negative. Like GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto 5. They spent $500 million to produce it. In 1 week, it earned $1 billion. Video games earn more than Hollywood. Even if, we're still fascinated with the actresses and all that, they are beaten by video games. So we are making video games where you fight with monsters, especially mythological monsters in the Philippines, but you could not shoot them, you could not kill them with spears and arrows. You have to learn chemistry, we have to discover where you could find sulfuric acid and then mix it with that's the only thing that will kill. So you can be assessed whether you knew your chemistry well. That's our plan. Okay? So, a new theory of learning. The second group that I founded, and I'm also CEO, Chief Empowerment Optimist, CEO. It's called Children of Mother Earth. Born and raised in the garbage dump, 9 times already in the United States, 5 times in Europe. They were in Stockholm and Uppsala, 6 times in Japan. And next year we're planning to go. We're invited to go to Sydney, Canberra, and Melbourne. Dancing the dances of the indigenous peoples. Okay. Professionals. No. This was in Aichi, Japan. World Expo. They were invited to give the prologue, and they are interpreting the myth of Malakas and Maganda, how Filipinos came about, how the world came about, in song and dance. So when we travel, I'm the one carrying the bamboos and the props, and that's my skill set, They're also calling attention to the indigenous peoples in the Philippines and in the world. There are 150 million indigenous peoples in Brazil and in the mountains and in the rainforest. Their habitats are already threatened because, you have to have your hamburgers here. So Brazil has to open up the rainforest there. So performing arts, not just really information, but performing arts, that through their songs and dances, the kids can call on everyone to listen to the cry of Mother Earth. That's why the Muslims also love us, because we could dance their dances. The princess is army, became a professional dancer, but she studied associate in cooperatives, including Maricar there at the back. Then the prince is Istinor, studied in Don Bosco, automotive mechanic, I think, and this Jonathan, electronics. That guy is a computer engineer. Then the one at the back, Jason Villaconta, working in Dubai. They all finished college. We had a few failures, but most of them have become very, very successful just by dancing. Because we raise funds to plant trees but we also pay their allowances and tuition fees. Born and raised in the garbage dump, and they performed in Elizabeth City, and paraded in Madison Avenue during Independence Day parade in New York. And this is in Passaic, I think, New Jersey. And the Filipinos and the Americans and Mexicans, they like their dances because it's a merging of all other cultures, the dances of the Filipinos. The kids were designated by the Catholic Bishops' Conference ambassadors for peace and environment. And of course, Catholic bishops, very influential. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources gave them this in an Adopt a Mountain program for 50 years. That's all planted to trees now with what the kids raised from dancing in different parts of the world. 134 hectares replanted with trees because that was the victim of illegal logging. And then when it rains, nothing holds the water anymore, so the water goes there, and you see all those miserable photos of Filipinos whose houses are washed away into the bay, planted into trees. Those are our the dancers and out of school youth. You see, this is the rainy season. It looks green because of the grass, but no trees anymore. Becomes brown in the summer. So we plant trees. And September 25, 193 heads of states from all over the world signed the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, 17 of them. And they gave flags to different parts of the world. Gave us flag number 15. Protection of the land. And those are the third generation dancers now. Those little shrimps, they planted 2,000 bamboo seedlings that day. And we raised the flag. And there's a video going on about the 17 flags being raised in different parts of the world. We even got the armed forces of the Philippines to provide protection. Those are the kids. These are the banks of the river. And it's slowly being eroded. So that's where we plant the bamboos. And we were given another 64 hectares by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. And we would like the Filipinos in the United States to adopt one seedling because the planting is the easy thing. It's the nurturing for 5 years. Animals will not eat the seedlings. That when El Nino comes, it will be watered and then put some biofertilizer in them, clean it regularly so that it will hold the water when the typhoon comes. This is the third organization that we are doing for Cry of the Earth, Cry of the Poor. First was the education, Sandiwaan Center for Learning. Second was the dancers, Children of Mother Earth. And the third is the Veritas Sustainable Development Solutions Incorporated. I am also the Chief Empowerment Optimist. And mostly they are the indigenous peoples in the mountains. Near the mountain where we planted, it's their ancestral domain. And they signed a memorandum of agreement with us because that's the way they farm. Now that's they were used to do that for centuries. They set fire to a certain area, then turn the other things into charcoal. Then when the rainy season comes, they have their stakes and then plant some. We do not want them to do that anymore. So we will teach them, we are teaching them regenerative agriculture. And that's Father Dennis Flynn, SVD. I think he's already 80 years old, but he still goes up the mountain in his cane. You see how the indigenous peoples carry their and then they're only paid for the whole thing $1. We would like to consolidate the buying and selling of their products. This is also another way that they transport their products. But this one was already taught by Father Dennis Flynn. You see his string beans? It's more than 1 meter long. And I have gotten the permission of the bishop. I'll give the sister some hints on how to do it, that. Because sometimes they are too formal, something like that. But the Diocese of Cubao, 3.5 million Catholics, 48 parishes. I have been given permission that every parish will put up an organic store, but our problem is we do not have enough string beans to sell. Once we have, then we will use our e-commerce platform because the children of this guy, he does not know how to read and write, but his kids know how to text. text capital of the world, the Philippines. 101 million people, 85 million Catholics, 120 cell phones. Some have 3. Because if it's one company, you could text forever. It's unlimited. Talk and text. So it's worth having 3 cell phones from 3 telcos. And this is Nene Bertodes, that's in our parish, the Sacred Heart of Jesus Parish. All naturally grown products. We feel that the women who are poor are doubly oppressed. Because women are already oppressed, then they are poor, they are oppressed, and then they could not get hold of food without chemicals. So I'm really bothered that the Filipinas are number 1 in Southeast Asia with regards to the incidence of breast cancer. So we will provide them with cheap organic products. And I have partners with the LaSalle University. And they found out red radish that has an enzyme that's very potent against breast cancer. I forgot the name of the enzyme now, but they have all those studies that they made. But red radish is very difficult to grow in the Philippines. So we are still trying so that this is our logo, you see. We don't even grow wheat, but since it's the Eucharist, fruit of divine and work of human hands, it will become our spiritual drink. So, just like we use cloud technologies for our education for out-of-school youth, we also use cloud technologies to get the naturally grown products to the women. And we have our own economic system again, convergent. The economic system converging with the values of the social system, then the ecosystem. The long-term plan is sustainability, social justice, and integral human development. And again, our core values of integrity, solidarity, and creativity. We feel that once these are inculcated in the minds and hearts of people, we will be able to make a significant difference as we listen to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. And this is our dream. It is a green building. It has solar panels. It's a lot of flowers and rain catchments. We're even looking for a machine. The river here in the drawing is very nice, but it's really murky and black. But there's a machine now that will filter the water, so we could use that to water the plants and plus the toilets of the children. The first floor will be for 500 school children, preschool. Second floor will be computers for the out of school. Third floor will be for the training of the young mothers. And the fourth floor, that's where the dancers, the children of Mother Earth, will practice their dances. So that's the solar panel, not enough. I would like it to be extended there. So I hope there will be many who will. So we're very glad that the Pope finally came around and recognized what we have been doing for a long time already. So thank you, Pope Francis. So, to end, this is my suggestion. You have to wake up the world. The religious has to be servants. And they have to be very good in strategy so that their service will not be in vain. Because sometimes you can be there with the poor. You are only taking up space. You are not really setting them free. Don't be too romantic that, I'm with the poor. You are only taking up space if you will not help them become free and have the more abundant life. So, as servants, like the sisters from Indonesia, it was mentioned by Pat, they're experts in organic rice production. Imagine. Then, to wake up the world, the religious has to be prophets. And some of us will die. Now, there are people who do not like to be reminded that they are evil. And they will kill us. And in my experience, 50 years in the religious life, The most courageous people in the world are the religious fighting environmental degradation, human rights abuses. This is from Korea. But when the religious in the Philippines come out, there are several hundreds of them, and very young. Like high school girls in veils, This is more like my crowd because... And the third, wake up the world, the religious as mystic. Sometimes we are afraid to talk about the interior castle and the ascent to Mount Carmel. We do not even talk about it in our dining rooms. We're talking about Bernie Sanders and those damn emails, and whether the Cubs will win against the Mets. And that's all that we talk about. But in Asia, if you could not talk about your spiritual life, they will not respect you too much. Especially those sannyasis in India, especially those Buddhists in China. So let us not be efficiency experts. Let us be experts in prayer. How we pray. And we should forget ourselves when we pray. And that will be another talk, But I would like, the religious as mystic is really needed in Asia. So that we can give hope to these children. And we can preserve the earth for coming generations. Once, there was a pilgrim who wanted enlightenment. So he heard that there was a Roshi far away, but he said it's worth it. So he rode his horse and forded rivers, climbed mountains until he reached the cave of the Roshi, the holy man. So the Roshi came out, asked him what he wanted, and the pilgrim said, I want to find enlightenment. And the Roshi said, why don't you look for a horse? And the pilgrim said, you don't understand. I already have a horse. And the Roshi smiled at him gently and retreated back into his cave. To wake up the world, do not look for alarm clocks and bells and firecrackers. You already have a horse. Thank you very much.